A jury in New York is set to start deliberating in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. If found guilty, the hip-hop mogul faces life behind bars. He denies the charges against him. Let's cross to California now and speak to legal journalist Meghann Cuniff. Meghann, good to speak to you. The judge is giving the jury his final instructions. What will happen then?
The jury will select a foreman and then deliberations will begin. And it's kind of anyone's guess what goes on in the jury room, but they have a lot to talk about. They've heard 7 weeks of testimony and a lot of pretty tough evidence, and then 2 days of closing argument, and they have 5 charges to consider.
He's charged with sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, transportation to engage in prostitution. What do these charges mean, Meghann?
Exactly. The transportation for prostitution charges are a lot more simple, and the prosecutor emphasized that he can be convicted of that even if everyone participating was consented to it. They say, of course, that wasn't the case, but commercial sex across state lines in the United States is illegal. So a lot of people are thinking that those are pretty easy convictions for prosecutors. However, the sex trafficking and racketeering charges are much more subjective in that jurors need to find that he coerced, defrauded, forced these women into sex with commercial prostitutes. And his lawyers have really put up an argument that they were actually willing participants in this. So that's where the negotiations are really going to be, I think.
I mean, the trial's lasted for almost 2 months, and obviously there's no way of knowing how long deliberations will take, but there is a lot for jurors to discuss, I imagine.
Yes, exactly. They have all the evidence, all the exhibits. They have the testimony to talk about, but then they also have a lot of exhibits. There are videos that they saw of these sexual encounters, and there's actually hundreds of more hours of videos that were entered in evidence. There's a lot of evidence that wasn't actually shown in court. It's just there for them if they want to look through it, and it's anyone's guess what they're going to be doing.
How much media interest has there been throughout the trial, Meghann?
There has been a ton. There's your typical interest from the traditional media in the United States, but then there's a huge surge of interest from online bloggers and people in the hip-hop world who really connect to their audience on independent social media sites like YouTube and things like that. I was actually in New York City to watch some of the trial in person, and it's amazing how many people are outside streaming on their own phones, talking to their own audience, talking to them about what's going on inside the courtroom. It's really unlike other trials we see.
After the infamous O.J. Simpson trial, the lawyers became celebrities almost. Do you think this trial has the potential to do the same?
I think it's a little less so because it's not televised. It will raise the profile of some of them, but a lot of them already have very high profiles. And actually, one of them in particular, I'd say the reason he's on the case is because he became a star on a Stream trial representing another rapper who goes by Young Thug. Brian Steele is a longtime lawyer of Young Thug, and I think Diddy liked what he saw and knew he needed a good trial lawyer and got Brian Steele in there. So we've already kind of seen that.
I mean, he denies the charges, but what potential penalties could he face if found guilty?
The transportation charges carry a maximum of 5 years. Those are the least serious charges he faces. The sex trafficking charges carry a minimum of 15 years. And then there's a maximum possibility of life in prison for the racketeering and sex trafficking. What he actually gets will, of course, depend on the convictions. And then there's a whole process that his lawyers will go through to argue this and that. But it's definitely a very serious, potentially life-ending sentence here.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. That is the legal journalist Meghann Cuniff speaking to us from California. That is the jury that's starting deliberating in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs. If found guilty, he could face life behind bars. Good Morning Scotland will pick this up in the morning. They're on air from 6. Thanks to the team. It's time for Stop.